Hello, welcome back to Dairy State Vegan. Today I have a special treat for you. I've taken 12 of my most popular party food recipes and put them all into one video for you to make it nice and easy to get you ready for your weekend. I hope you enjoyed this video. Before we get into it, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of my videos coming up. And make sure to hit the like button and comment down below which recipes you'll be making this weekend. Enjoy. Today, we're gonna make vegan fish tacos with a homemade mango avocado salsa and a chipotle mayonnaise. Stay tuned. All right, so for my vegan fish tacos, I love to use these Gardein fishless fillets. They're really, really good. They bake up in about 25 minutes in your oven. So the first thing we're gonna do is I have my oven preheated to 425 degrees. I'm gonna get these in the oven, and then I'll come back and show you how to make our mango salsa and our chipotle mayo. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna make while our fish is in the oven is our mango salsa. So for this, you're gonna want a mango, 1 jalapeno, 1 red bell pepper, 1 avocado, a kiwi, some red onion, and of course some cilantro. Then you're going to also want some lime juice and salt and pepper. So I'm just going to cut all of these, dice them into small pieces. I'm going to seed my jalapeno, get it all in the bowl, and we will mix it together. Alright, so now that we have all of our veg and fruit, I'm going to put a squeeze of lime juice in here. And then we're going to crack some Himalayan pink salt. And a little black pepper. And then we're just going to mix this together, set it to the side, and make our chipotle mayonnaise. Okay, so for our chipotle mayo, this is actually super easy. Use your favorite vegan mayonnaise. I'm using the Hellmann's vegan just because I cannot find the Just Mayo anywhere in my stores right now. Then you want to get some chipotle peppers in adobo sauce, lime juice, and salt. I'm going to use my Ninja smoothie blender cup. You can also use a food processor for this or just a regular blender. And we're going to put approximately a cup of vegan mayo into the blender cup. Then we're going to take out a couple of the chipotle peppers in here. I like to take the seeds out. You don't have to, but the seeds will harden if they sit for a little while. So I just think texturally it's better. Okay, so we've got our mayo, our chipotles, and we're just gonna take out about a tablespoon of this adobo sauce that's in our can already. And add that to our mayo. Then a healthy squeeze of lime juice. Don't be shy. This is going to brighten it up a whole lot. And a healthy pinch of salt, about ½ teaspoon. We're going to blend this together till it's well incorporated, and that is all you need to do to make your chipotle mayo. Okay, so now to assemble our tacos. We're going to take 1 fishless fillet per taco. I cut the fillets in half diagonally so they'll fit these little fajita-sized taco shells perfectly. Then we're going to add some of our mango salsa. This is so refreshing and so perfect for a summer dinner. It's a great dinner party meal as well. All right, and then we're gonna take some of this chipotle mayo that we made and just drizzle it over the top. And then go ahead and serve this up with a lime wedge to squeeze over the top, and you're all set. So in today's video, I'm going to show you how to make some delicious, easy vegan jalapeno poppers, and we're going to make some buffalo boneless wings. Okay, so first thing we're going to start on is our jalapeno poppers. I have my oven preheating to 350 degrees, and I'm just going to slice these poppers. I'm going to take the top off. We're going to slice the jalapenos in half lengthwise. And then with a spoon, we're just going to gently scrape out the membrane and all of the seeds. Okay, so now that we have our jalapeno peppers sliced and seeded, we're going to set these to the side and we're going to mix up our filling. Make sure not to rub your eyes or any other sensitive parts of your body after slicing these before you wash your hands. Also, don't pick up your baby. The oils and peppers can get everywhere, and you really don't want to deal with the pain from that. Okay, so for our filling, I'm going to use one whole container of the Trader Joe's vegan cream cheese. I also am really a big fan of the Aldi vegan cream cheese for this. And the great thing about that is both of them are really affordable. Don't worry about if it's too much for the amount of peppers that you have, because if you don't use it all as a filling of the peppers, it makes a really good cream cheese for your bagel the next day. So then to this, I'm going to add about 3 tablespoons of vegan Parmesan, a little bit of black pepper, garlic powder, and salt. One thing that vegan cream cheeses tend to lack, I find, across the board is salt. So I always add a little bit when I'm using them in a recipe. And we're just going to mix this together really well with a fork until it's all well incorporated. And this is literally all you need for your filling. All right, now give your batter a little taste. And if it's seasoned to your liking, it's really good. It's time to fill our peppers. So I'm just using like a spoon. I'm going to fill these kind of generously so they all have a good amount of the cream cheese mixture. Now we're going to be baking our jalapeno poppers today, but if you were to fry them, you would want to, after this step, take them and put them in your freezer for about 30 minutes. That way your cream cheese mixture doesn't just explode out of your popper. Now if you're not a fan of spicy food but you like the idea of jalapeno poppers, you could use those little sweet bell peppers and do the same thing with those. And they'd be equally as delicious, and you wouldn't have to worry about the spice from the jalapeno. And they're about the same size, so it would be easy to just swap that out. All right, so my peppers are filled. I'm going to take my extra cream cheese mixture and set it to the side for my bagel in the morning. And now I'm going to show you how we're going to wrap these. Okay, so when you think of a jalapeno popper, most of the time you think of something deep fried and battered. But for the purpose of this recipe, I'm going to show you how you can make it really easy with some pre-packaged crescent rolls. Now later on in this video, when I make our vegan buffalo boneless wings, I'm going to be making a batter. And if you prefer your jalapeno poppers with a batter, go ahead and use that batter recipe. Just like I said, make sure to dip them or freeze them before you dip them and fry them. So I'm just using a package of Pillsbury crescent rolls, which are accidentally vegan, and I'm going to roll these out on a lightly floured surface. I'm going to separate the rectangles and pinch the seams together, and then I'm just going to kind of press them out to kind of make them a little larger and a little thinner, because we don't want this to be too bready. Okay, so once you have a rectangle completed, you're just going to take one of your peppers, and we just want to thinly wrap it just until the seams meet. Like I said, you don't want this to be too bready because you really want to taste the jalapeno. So once you get it to where the seams meet, just cut it Make sure to press the seams together. Maybe give it a cute little candy wrapper twist on the end if you have extra long ends. And then you're gonna set this to the side and do the rest with all the rest of the jalapenos. Okay, so once they're all wrapped, I just put them on a sheet pan lined with parchment so it doesn't stick. And we're gonna pop these in a preheated 350-degree oven until they're golden brown, the jalapeno's a little tender. Probably about 20 minutes, but it all depends on your oven temperature. And while these are cooking, we're gonna get started on our boneless buffalo wings. Okay, so for our vegan buffalo boneless wings, the first thing we're going to do is set up our dredging station. We're going to have a wet and a dry dredge. So in our wet dredge, like we'd have our egg wash, I'm going to use aquafaba, which is the liquid from garbanzo beans. You're going to use about a third of the can of liquid. I'm going to put in a few dashes of hot sauce. You want to make sure you season every layer or you're going to have bland food. Then we're also going to drop in a couple tablespoons of pickle brine. And then flour. Just going to mix this together to see if we got the consistency we need. We want this to stick to our boneless wings and also help the dry flour to stick to them better as well. So you want it like a thin pancake batter consistency. All right, I'm just gonna add a little more aquafaba and a little more pickle brine. And then in our dry container, we're gonna add flour, about 2 cups. I'm just gonna use the last of what's in my flour container. And for seasoning on this layer, I have about 1.5 teaspoons of each salt, garlic, black pepper, about a teaspoon of paprika, and a little under a teaspoon of poultry seasoning. We're gonna mix this well together and then taste your flour. Make sure it tastes a little salty because this is gonna have to season what we're using for our boneless wings. So you wanna be able to taste your seasoning in it. Okay, so what we're gonna use for our boneless wings today is tofu, which I have been pressing between some weights and some paper towel for about 3 hours. You wanna make sure to press it for at least 2 or it's gonna be real mushy. And then also a good trick when you're feeding non-vegans vegan food is to feed them food with familiar names that looks like food they're used to. So I picked up some of these Light Life Smart Tenders. And I'm also gonna batter and fry these and mix them in with the tofu so my plate will look more like what they're used to with boneless wings. So for the tofu, I'm just gonna cut it into these cute little triangles. I just think it makes it kind of bite-sized. It looks more fun to eat. And then while I'm battering these, I have some hot oil, about 1 inch heating up in a chicken fryer pan behind me because once these are fully dredged and battered, we're gonna get this in a chicken fryer pan. These Light Life tenders, I'm just gonna leave as is. I'm not gonna cut them up. That way, like I said, they look like food that the non-vegans are familiar with so that they'll be more likely to try it out. This is just a good trick to get people to try your food and have them go, oh, vegan food is actually delicious. And you can buy more of these tenders if you want or skip them all together. You could also add in cauliflower in here and have like a buffalo boneless wing smorgasbord of options. So to batter our boneless wings, we're gonna put them in the dry mix first, then wet, and only let one hand go into the wet batter, otherwise you're gonna have a mess. And then we're gonna put them in the dry again. We're gonna top them with some flour so they get good and coated. And then I'm gonna set them to the side to get ready for the fryer while I batter up the rest. And the aquafaba acts as an egg replacer. So you can use aquafaba for all kinds of things. You can even make meringues out of it. So you guys will be seeing me using it more and more during this series to show you all kinds of delicious foods you can make using aquafaba as an egg replacer because it's really cheap. It's just the water from a can of chickpeas. Aquafaba literally means bean juice. Okay, so now we have everything battered. I have my hot oil, and then over here, I have a wire rack sitting over the top of paper towel. Do not put paper towel on top of your wire rack. That's a good way to get soggy fried foods. But we are just gonna fry up each of our boneless wings until golden brown. The beautiful thing about vegan boneless wings is you don't need to worry about poisoning anybody if the inside is undercooked, like you would with chicken. So just pop them in your oil. Just do a few at a time. Don't overcrowd the pan or the oil will get too cold. And once they're golden and delicious, you're gonna flip them and fry them on the other side. And then once these are all fried and on our rack cooling, I'm gonna show you how to make our homemade buffalo sauce. Okay, so now I'm gonna show you how to make this super simple vegan buffalo sauce. I grew up a firefighter's daughter, so I'm a welder's wife. He makes fires, but before I married him, God prepared me by giving me a daddy who taught me how to put out fires. And one of the greatest things about being a daughter of a firefighter is learning how to cook like firefighters. So we're gonna take a bottle of hot sauce of your choice. I'm just using your traditional Frank's Red Hot, and about 2 tablespoons of the vegan butter of your choice. We really like the earth balance in this family. Now in the firehouse, when they would make homemade buffalo sauce, they would use a package of the macaroni and cheese powder. So I'm gonna add a few tablespoons of nooch to kind of replicate that cheesy flavor. Some of my favorite recipes to veganize now are recipes I got from the years my dad was in the firehouse. Firefighters know how to cook. My dad actually didn't learn how to cook until I was probably a young teenager, but still some of my favorite recipes come from the firefighter cookbook. All right, so we're gonna add a pinch of salt because nooch isn't gonna give it the salt you get from that mac and cheese powder. And then we're also gonna add a little bit of garlic and a healthy squeeze, maybe about 1.5 tablespoons of yellow mustard. I'm gonna whisk this together, and you just need it till the butter is melted and it's hot and bubbly, and then we'll come back and we will put everything together for you. Okay, so while I'm finishing up with these buffalo wings, my husband is actually gonna make the ranch to dip these in, and we just wanna show you the hack we found. So the Kroger brand ranch dip mix, not dressing, is actually accidentally vegan, and it's really good. It's gonna give that familiar ranch dressing flavor that your friends are expecting. We just mix it with some veggies. Sometimes we do half veggies, half sour cream. Tonight we're just gonna do veggies. A couple tablespoons of almond milk to thin it out, and a capful of apple cider vinegar, and then about 2 teaspoons of dill to add to it to give it a more homemade flavor. And that's gonna be our dip for our jalapeno poppers and our buffalo wings tonight. Okay, so now we have all of our golden brown fried tofu and vegan chicken tender pieces. I'm gonna put these in a big mixing bowl. I know this bowl seems excessive, but we wanna toss them in the sauce. Then we're gonna take our homemade buffalo sauce, drizzle it over. Start with half and add more if you need it. You can always leave it on the side for dipping. And then we're just gonna toss and evenly coat. And our vegan boneless wings are as easy as that. And you can toss these in any sauce you want. You can toss them in barbecue, however you want. This recipe works for all of that. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Throw some celery and some carrots on your tray along with that ranch dip and tell them, here, you brought a frickin' veggie tray. Watch them inhale everything you made, and they'll never ask you just to bring a salad or veggies again. All right, so one of the best party foods to bring to a party or to have at your own is like a cheesy stuffed pull-apart bread. So I'm gonna show you how to make pizza stuffed bread 2 different ways today. All right, so the first thing we need to do is we need to take our loaf of bread and we need to slice it. Now, in order for this to work, you need a fairly wide loaf of bread. You can use, like I did, the Italian bread, Vienna bread, or even like a big square ciabatta bread. You just do not want the real skinny baguette type breads. This recipe won't work with that. Now I'm doing 2 loaves because I'm going to show you 2 different versions of the pizza stuffed bread. 1 loaf is plenty for a party. My family and I are going to be eating stuffed bread all week, I imagine. So you're going to start by cutting your bread about 1 inch apart thicknesses and cut it on the diagonal because we're going to have to go back and cut it on the diagonal this way as well. So we have about 1 inch cubes to pull out. Just make sure you're not cutting it all the way through because you don't want slices. You want to be able to stuff this loaf. So leave some bread on the bottom. So once you have your loaf fully sliced, it should look like this. And while you're slicing your loaf, take 1 cup of vegan butter and start melting it on the stove because you're gonna make like a melted garlic butter to go through this. I'm gonna slice my second loaf here and then we will get to stuffing. Okay, so once you have your breads cut and cubed properly, this is when you're gonna start stuffing. This is honestly the longest part of making the stuffed bread. It's a little bit of a labor of love, but it's totally worth it. So I'm using the Daiya cutting board mozzarella. I have 2 bags, 1 per loaf. You could even use a little bit more. And we're just gonna start filling in. I wanna put about half of the bag on the bottom level and then half in after we get our toppings in. So make sure you get a little bit in between every single square. Putting a little bit of cheese in first is gonna help to hold this open for when we pour our garlic butter over it. All right, so now that we have both of our breads partially stuffed, I took my vegan butter that I have melted with some garlic, a little bit of salt, and some Italian seasonings. And we are gonna ladle this generously into each of our loaves of bread, making sure to get some through every nook and cranny. All right, so now that we have our garlic butter in there, we're gonna make 2 different kinds. This one is gonna be kind of carnivore style. So I am using some vegan pepperoni and vegan seitan sausage. And you're gonna go in and just stuff this everywhere you can get it. Making sure to push it down because we still have to add more cheese. Yes, I said more. You'll notice too that I put my loaves on my baking sheet right after I slice them. That's because as you stuff these, it is gonna get really heavy and a little bit flimsy, so if you can save yourself having to transport it after it's stuffed to a baking dish, that is much better. All right, so let's move on to our other bread. This one, I'm gonna do veggie style. So I've got mushrooms, bell peppers and onions, mushrooms, and some black olives. And we're just gonna stuff this with the veggies. Another way to make these breads that would be really good, Milwaukee is famous for just sausage, mushroom, and onion pizza. You could totally do it Milwaukee style with vegan sausage, mushrooms, and onions. I guarantee it would be a huge hit. Your vegan and non-vegan friends alike. Your goal is to make sure every single bite not only has cheese, but at least has some other element, whether it's a piece of pepperoni or sausage on our carnivore style bread, or some onion and veggies on our veggie style bread. We just want to make sure every single bite has something special. Make sure you're going in both directions of your sections as well, so that you're spreading everything out. Like I said, this is a little bit of a labor of love, but it is so worth it when it's done. All right, now that we have all of our toppings in, we're gonna put another half of a bag of our vegan cheese on top. All right, now that our loaves are loaded and buttered and stuffed, I'm gonna take this tray, I'm gonna pop it in my oven at 350 degrees for 20 to 25 minutes till all the cheese is melted. And then I'm gonna crank my oven to broil for about 5 minutes. Keep a close eye on it. You don't want it to burn, you just want the outside to get crispy. All right, so here you have it. Ooey, gooey, cheesy. They look a little dark here, but they're just perfectly toasty. Stuffed pizza breads. And then you'll notice I did not put any sauce inside of these breads. That's because I like to serve them on the side for dipping so that they don't get soggy. So I have a vegan Alfredo. This is actually the Simple Truth Alfredo, but it's also really easy to make your own if you don't have access to this. And then a marinara. In today's video, I'm gonna show you 2 different versions of dips you can make. They go together super quickly. They're a huge crowd pleaser and they're so, so good. So I hope you'll enjoy them. One is a pizza dip and one is a buffalo chicken dip. Let's get cooking. Okay, so for our first dip of the evening, we're gonna take 2 containers of Trader Joe's vegan cream cheese and spread it into a pie pan. You can really do this in any baking dish, but I find the pie pan keeps it kind of circular like a pizza, and it just looks pretty. You can also use any vegan cream cheese you'd like, tofu, Aldi, whatever you want. I'm a big fan of the Trader Joe's and the Aldi when it comes to these kind of foods, but you can use whichever vegan cream cheese is your favorite. Once we have this evenly laid out in the pan, I always say vegan cream cheese is lacking seasoning. So I'm just gonna sprinkle a pinch of salt to layer this level and put a little garlic over the top. And while you're doing this, make sure you're heating your oven to 400 degrees for the baking process. All right, now that we have that layer seasoned, I'm gonna add just a vegan marinara. You can make your own or add the marinara of your choice. I already had one open in my fridge that I had to use up. So we are just going with what we have. You want to leave a generous layer, but not so much that it's going to make it soupy. And now it's time to add our vegan mozzarella. I'm using the Daiya Cutting Board Collection mozzarella. They have really stepped it up with their cutting board collection and it melts really, really well. And I think it tastes really, really good. So I'm just gonna add a couple handfuls. It even smells like mozzarella. I don't know, Daiya must have heard that everybody hated them because they have stepped up their game. I had about half a bag left in my fridge, so I'm gonna add that whole half bag. And then to the top of this, we're gonna add some vegan pepperoni. And you can use whatever pizza toppings you prefer. Just growing up, we always had this just with pepperoni and that's how I prefer it. I'm just gonna sprinkle a little Italian seasoning over the top of this then. And I'm gonna add a little of the vegan Follow Your Heart Parmesan. And I'm gonna put this to the side so we can prep our buffalo chicken dip, and then we will pop them both in the oven at the same time. All right, so our next dip is super simple as well. That's kind of the beauty of dips. They're so easy. I'm gonna use some of these Light Life Smart Tenders. You could also use, if you don't like mock meat alternatives in this situation, some jackfruit I could not find it at my Trader Joe's, so we are using the Smart Tenders. We're just gonna chop them small. All right, now that we have our vegan chicken chopped, we're gonna add to a bowl 2 containers of our Trader Joe's vegan cream cheese. Again, you can use whatever your favorite is. I'm a big fan of the Trader Joe's or the Aldi's. It's delicious and it's economical. I made a batch of buffalo sauce. You can pre-buy it, but if you want to know how to make it, I made it in my boneless buffalo wings video, which I will link in the iCards above. And I'm just adding about 1/3 of that to this bowl. We're gonna add our vegan chicken, about 1/4 to 1/3 of a cup of vegan Parmesan. I'm using the Follow Your Heart. About a teaspoon of salt. And garlic. And we're just gonna mix this together. Once our buffalo dip is well mixed, we're just gonna transfer it into a baking dish. You could honestly also just mix it in the baking dish. Just for aesthetics of this video, I didn't, but if you don't care if there's a little slop up the sides of your dish, go ahead and save yourself the dirty dishes and just mix it all right in here. Then I'm gonna top it with just a little bit of our Violife, just like cheddar shreds. This isn't necessary, but I just think it gives it like a pretty look. And you can use whatever cheddar shreds you like. These are the ones I happen to have. I also like the Daya cutting board shreds and the Follow Your Heart. And we're gonna sprinkle a little more of our Follow Your Heart Parmesan shreds, just for some of that salty, kind of hard cheesy flavor. Now that both of our dips, our pizza and our buffalo chicken are prepped, I'm gonna pop them into a 400-degree oven for about 20 minutes or until all our cheese is melty and it's slightly browned on the top. All right, so everything is out of the oven, and I don't know if you can hear it, but listen. It's like bubbling and hot. We're just gonna top our buffalo chicken dip with a little bit more buffalo sauce. I also have extra on the side if people want to add it. And then I like to add green onions to that as well, just to give it a little brightness. Here you have our buffalo chicken dip vegan and our pizza dip veganized. Now to serve these, you can serve them with whatever you like. I like to cut up a baguette. And then also corn chips, Fritos are a really good option. This is just the Trader Joe's version. And pretzels, that way everyone has options. And there you have our dips for our vegan party food series. All right, so today in our vegan party food series, I'm gonna show you another classic party favorite, and we're gonna veganize it. I also have a couple tips and tricks for you to make this the best possible taco dip you've ever made. So stay tuned to see my recipe and my tricks to make it the best taco dip anyone at your party has ever had. Let's get cooking. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do is prep our veggies. For this, you're gonna want tomato, lettuce, onion, and black olives. Now my first tip for you is with the tomatoes, when you slice them, make it the first thing you do. We're gonna dice them, but then we're gonna put our tomatoes in this colander that I have resting in a Tupperware container, because then as they sit, any excess liquid that would usually ooze out and make your food get a little soggy while it's sitting at the table is gonna have time to ooze out well in that colander, so that when you put these on your taco dip will last longer without the tomatoes making it too soggy. All right, we're gonna dice up some onion. You can use a red onion too if you like. I just like white onions with taco type dishes. But if you prefer red onion, especially for color, go ahead. All right, and then of course we need lettuce. Now you can buy lettuce shredded, which is convenient because you want to chop your lettuce really, really small. But if not, just make sure you chop it into really small, fine pieces because this is going to be dip for chips. So we're going to cut it this way and then we're going to go back and cut it in the reverse direction. Now for your black olives, if you didn't buy them sliced, this would be the time you want to slice them as well. Otherwise, just open your can. That way when you're ready to top your dip, everything is there and ready to go. Now I'm going to put all of these prepped veggies to the side and I'm going to take you to my second big tip for the best taco dip ever. Dax agrees that it's delicious. All right, my next tip for the best taco dip ever is using the Taco Bell hot packets. The stuff they sell in the store is not the same. It doesn't taste the same. I spared you me opening up a bunch of them, but I literally just open them up and dump them into a Pyrex bowl so that I have it to ladle over my base of my dip when I'm all ready. You can open them individually and just squeeze them over, or if you're not into the Taco Bell sauces like I am, because let's be honest, I'm obsessed, you can use whatever taco sauce you prefer. Okay, so for our base, we're going to use 1 container of tofutti cream cheese. I truthfully prefer the Trader Joe's cream cheese. They were out of it. This will work just fine. And then 1 container of the tofutti sour cream. And a package of the taco seasoning of your choice. All right, now you can use a hand mixer to do this. I've had my cream cheese and sour cream sitting out to get to room temperature. We're just gonna blend these well together. You guys have a very happy baby in the background today. All right, so now that we have our veggies prepped and our base mixed, it's time to assemble and show you my third and final tip to impress even your non-vegan friends with this taco dip. Okay, so we're gonna get our base down. You can use any type of tray or plates or whatever you have. Sometimes I like to buy like trays from the Dollar Tree because then if I forget them at someone's house, it's not that big of a deal. It just cost me $1. Our next layer is going to be our taco sauce. Again, if you don't hoard Taco Bell sauces like I do, or you just don't want to go through the work of opening all the packets, you can use whatever taco sauce you prefer. But I promise you, this is how you can make an unforgettable taco dip. Next, we're going to layer on our veggies, starting with our lettuce. tomato, then your onion, and then of course black olives. Now my husband and son aren't the biggest fan of black olives, but I still put them on here because then they just pick them off and give me theirs, which gives me double the black olives. Okay, now for my final tip to make this a taco dip that could fool even non-vegans. I'm gonna take this Daya medium cheddar farmhouse block and we're gonna shred it over the taco dip. If you buy the Daya shreds, they're very recognizably not cheese. This block is really, really good. If you haven't tried it, try it. If you're not a fan of Daya, neither was I, this block is delicious. So I'm just gonna shave it right off over this taco dip. And when you do this, you get those awesome, freshly grated cheese shreds like you would from a regular cheese. And nobody will know the difference, I promise you. And today I'm gonna show you how to make super easy vegan mini corn dogs. Okay, so for today's video, you just need a few things. I like these Light Life Smart Dogs. They tend to be our favorite. You pick out whatever your favorite vegan hot dog is and use that. And then for a cornbread mix, you just wanna make sure it has no animal products in it. This Live G Free from Aldi is so good actually. So we use this one. And then you just need a few ingredients that it calls for on the side. Just whatever's not vegan, make sure you veganize it. So let's show you how we make these. Okay, so my oven is preheating to 375. I'm gonna use this egg replacer today. You could also make a flax egg or use applesauce to replace the egg. With cornbread, the applesauce actually works really well because cornbread tends to be sweeter. But today we're using this, so we just need 1 egg's worth. So we're gonna take 1 tablespoon of the replacer to 2 tablespoons of water. I'm going to mix this together and then let it sit for just about 2 minutes, and then we'll add the rest of our wet ingredients. Alright, so our egg replacer has had time to sit. Now we're just going to add the rest of the ingredients. It calls for 3/4 of a cup of milk. So I'm going to use unsweetened almond milk. And this particular box also calls for 1/2 of a cup of vegetable oil. If you're oil free, you can go ahead and replace that with applesauce. We'll just mix our wet ingredients together, and then we'll add the cornbread mix. All right, again, I'm using the Live G Free gluten-free cornbread mix from Aldi. It's our favorite cornbread mix. I do make cornbread from time to time from scratch, but I definitely don't do it for these mini corn dogs. These mini corn dogs make a fast, easy lunch prepped up for a couple of days. I usually make a big batch, section them off into about 8 mini corn dogs per meal, and I have about a week of lunches for either my husband or my son. Usually serve them with some watermelon and some vegetarian baked beans. They both really, really enjoy them, and especially in the summertime, as a busy realtor, it makes for really easy lunches. All right, so we're all mixed. Now we're gonna slice our hot dogs. So I usually just take out 1/2 of the package of hot dogs, and then I cut them in even 6. This is about the perfect size to go into your mini muffin pans. All right, let's make our mini corn dogs. All right, so I have my mini muffin pan. Mine is non-stick, so I don't oil it. If you don't have a non-stick, I would recommend oiling it. Or if you buy a fresh new non-stick, then oil it the first time you use it. Otherwise, you should not need to grease your pan. Then I take this little cookie scoop. This is one of the smaller ones. It doesn't say the diameter. But we're going to use this to scoop our cornbread in. We're just going to take one full scoop per muffin. All right, now that our muffin tin is full, we're just gonna insert directly in the middle our slices of vegan hot dog. All right, so now our first batch is in the pan and ready to go in the oven. This is gonna go in a 375-degree oven for about 15 minutes. And when this is all said and done, this recipe actually makes 2 full pans of mini corn dogs. So like I said, it makes a ton for lunches for the week. And it's super fast and easy. So I'll pop these in the oven and I will show you what they look like when they're all done. And there you have it. Super delicious, super easy, vegan mini corn dog muffins. So in today's video, I'm going to show you how to make some really easy chopped cheeseburger sliders, and then we're also going to make a vegan queso dip. These are really easy things to throw together if last minute you decide you want to have a little Super Bowl get together, or if you're like me and you don't care that much about the teams in the Super Bowl this year, so you kind of forgot it was happening, but what you do care about is snacks. So we're going to start with the chopped cheeseburger sliders, and then we'll do the queso dip, and it's going to be delicious and fast. Alright, so what you're going to need for these chopped cheeseburger sliders, you're just going to need a little olive oil to heat up your pan. Then I'm using the Gardein beefless crumbles. You can use whatever beefless crumbles you like, or you could even use cooked lentils if you wanted. You are going to need pickle relish, ketchup, mustard, some onion, some cheese. I'm using the So Delicious Cheddar Jack shredded, and then salt, pepper, garlic for seasoning. And then you're also going to need 12 dinner rolls, and I'm going to use some chow cheese too. I'll show you what I'm going to do with that. But I'm going to get this pan heated up, chop up a little bit of onion, and then we're going to start assembling the insides of our cheeseburger sliders. While I'm doing that, I'm preheating the oven to 325 so that as soon as I have this done and them assembled, I can pop them in the oven and get working on the queso dip. Okay, so to our heated pan, I'm going to add half a cup of chopped white onion. We're going to saute this down till it gets translucent, and then we're going to add our Gardein beefless grounds and our So Delicious shreds. Okay, so once our onions start getting a little translucent, I'm going to add our beefless crumbles to the pan. This should remind you of before your vegan days, or now that they have the Impossible Burger, like the White Castle sliders. Yeah, not healthy, delicious football food. Okay, so I'm also going to add a healthy handful of the So Delicious shredded cheese. My oven's preheated. I'm going to add this into here so it can melt in the pan for when we scoop it onto our slider rolls. So you're going to add about a half a cup. You don't need to add more because I'm adding a little cheese to the top as well. This is just going to make the whole texture a little bit juicier and gooier. And we're also going to add to taste just some garlic, salt, and pepper. That's what I typically use to season burgers. If you use different seasonings, go ahead and use whatever you're used to. This is just my preference. Now, obviously, when I'm filming this, it is not Super Bowl Sunday, so my family is going to indulge in these treats while having a family game night, which is another really awesome excuse to make these foods. So you're just gonna cook this until your beefless grounds get a little bit browned and your cheese starts melting a little, and then we'll go on to our next step. Okay, so once this is cooked up, I'm just gonna add a few more ingredients. We're gonna add about 2 tablespoons of relish. And we're gonna get real technical here. A good glob of yellow mustard. We really want this to kind of moisten everything and hold it together when we put it on the slider rolls. Then also a good glob of ketchup. And I'll get you closer so you can see about how much of each. All right, we're going to turn the heat off. Mix it all together. And then that's all it takes before you start assembling your sliders. So you'll see you want your consistency to be kind of like a dry, sloppy dough. All right, so I have sliced my rolls. I've chosen to use whole wheat, but you can use whatever you want. I've placed them in a greased 9x13 pan, and now we're just gonna take our mixture and put it on our buns. I'm gonna use this cookie scoop. You can use whatever you want. I just find that it'll help it be more uniform. And then I'll press it down with the top bun once I have everything on here and assembled. All right, so each of our sliders have a decent amount of filling on them. Now I'm just gonna I cut my chow cheese squares into 4ths. I'm just gonna top each slider with a slice of the chow cheese. The chow creamy white melts so nicely that it just makes a really delicious texture for your sliders. You could also do this, you could omit the ketchup and mustard, and you could add green peppers and some mushrooms and make them like Philly steak sliders. All right, so I'm just gonna top these with the top buns. We're gonna pop them in the oven at 325 for about 15 minutes. And then if you wanted, when they're all done, you could brush the tops with some melted vegan butter and a little bit of sesame seeds or everything but the bagel seasoning. It's up to you. We really just want our cheese to melt, the buns to get a little crispy, and the filling to get nice and piping hot. Okay, so for this queso dip, what you're gonna need is some chili peppers. I'm using jalapenos. You can use milder ones or spicier ones if you want. Some white onion. You're gonna want some minced garlic. And then for the cheeses, I'm gonna use the chow tomato cayenne and our So Delicious shreds that I used on our sliders. Salt, pepper, garlic, and cumin for seasoning. Olive oil, and then some vegan butter and flour to make a roux. So I'm gonna get these jalapenos and this onion chopped. I'm just gonna throw them in my food processor real quick, and then we'll come back and start making our queso. All right, so I have our onion and jalapenos chopped. I have some olive oil heating in this pan. I'm just gonna dump it all in. You do not need to use a food processor to do this, but in the name of my 10-year-old thinks he's starving, I wanted to make sure everything was done quickly. And for a queso dip, it's kind of nice to have the very, very fine chop you can only get with food processor. Now, I did not take the seeds out of my jalapenos. If you like it a little more mild, just take them out. So we're gonna saute these down, get them good and sweaty, and then we'll add the rest. It's gonna be really fast and your friends will be super impressed. Now you really wanna make sure you're cooking these down quite a bit, because once we start making the roux and assembling, it's not gonna cook that much longer, and you don't want raw onion or jalapeno in your queso. While this is cooking down, one more ingredient I forgot to tell you you're gonna need unsweetened almond milk because we are going to be making a roux. All right, now that our onions are completely translucent and everything is cooking down and getting smelly, we can start building the roux. If you don't know what a roux is, it's literally just a fat, like vegan butter or oil, and flour that we're then gonna mix some milk into to make it more like a bechamel base. This is used in a lot of soups and gravies. So we're melting in about 3 tablespoons of vegan butter. And I'm gonna add to that about 2 tablespoons of flour, maybe 3. The big thing here is you can always add more, you cannot take it away. Now we're gonna whisk this. And before we add anything else, we just wanna let the roux cook. That way our dip doesn't taste like raw flour. So whisk it around so it doesn't burn. And give it about 4 to 5 minutes so the raw flour flavor cooks out. Okay, so once we've cooked the raw flour flavor out, we're gonna add our almond milk. I'm gonna add approximately 2 cups. We can add more if we need to, but this is just where we're gonna start. And then to this layer, this is where I'm gonna do my seasoning. I forgot to put my minced garlic in with my onions and peppers, so we're just gonna skip that. But we have our garlic powder. We're gonna add about 2 teaspoons. Cumin. Cumin is a strong flavor, so take it easy. We're gonna add about half a teaspoon. And this is starting to get pretty thick. So I'm gonna add about another cup of almond milk. And I'm gonna turn our heat down. Now we're gonna shake in some black pepper. About 2 teaspoons. And about a tablespoon of salt. Now we're gonna cook this sauce down. We want it to get to the consistency of a bechamel, which is like that creamy white sauce. It's a little bit thicker than a gravy. And then as we're whisking, and this is stirring, I'm gonna add in our So Delicious cheddar jack shreds so we can get them melting. This is about half a cup. And you just want to make sure you're really whisking to get everything incorporated. And then I've also chopped up 4 slices of the tomato cayenne chow cheese. This is going to give your sauce a really yummy texture. So we're going to slowly whisk this in. We want to get all our cheeses to melt together. Once we have the cheeses melted, it's okay to go ahead and give it a taste. Now there's a lot of things you can do to add flavor. You can either add more seasonings, you could add some fresh salsa to this if you wanted. Even a can of Rotel would make a big difference. This video is all about giving you your base. So I'm gonna finish whisking in the cheeses and I will come back and show you the finished products when we're done. And there you have it, a thick, cheesy queso dip that even your non-vegan friends will love. And a pan full of chopped cheeseburger sliders. I'm gonna top all of mine with these little pickles because they'll be so cute on the tray. I promise you this will be a hit with your vegan and omnivore friends alike. All right, so today what we're making is we're gonna make a vegan crab rangoon, and it is so fast and so easy. Anyone can do this and you will impress all of your not vegan friends. Okay, so what you're gonna need for this recipe are Gardein crabless crab bites, just 3 of them, about 2 tablespoons of chopped onion, red onion or scallions are great, 1 tub of vegan cream cheese, this is the Trader Joe's brand, some vegan wonton skins. Then for seasoning, you're just gonna need garlic powder, onion powder, salt, sesame oil, oop, the oil made a little streak, and some sugar. And then while we're prepping these ingredients, it's gonna happen so fast that we're gonna heat some oil in a skillet so that we can fry them up. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take our Gardein crabless crab cakes, and I've cooked them and then let them cool so they don't melt our vegan cream cheese right away. And we're just gonna kind of mush them up. You could do this in a food processor, but honestly, this is so easy. I wouldn't dirty the food processor. Okay, so once our crabless crab cakes are good and mushed, we're gonna add to that our container of vegan cream cheese. This is actually a little shy of 1 container. I thought I had a full one and I didn't, but we're just gonna make it work anyways. Now, another tip for this, if you don't want to go through the frying process, is you could make everything that I'm making in this bowl and heat it up as a crab rangoon dip. Okay, so we've got the cream cheese, we're going to add our onions, and then before we add any seasonings, we're going to mix these 3 together. So once they're well incorporated, then we're gonna taste it and then we're gonna start to season. Now this doesn't look like a lot, but because you only use so little filling in each wonton, a little bit goes a long way. This will probably make 15 to 20 crab rangoons. So we're just gonna give it a taste. We're gonna add a drizzle of sesame oil. Y'all, just a few drops goes a long way. You can see I added just very little. Sesame oil is strong, so you don't want to overdo it, but it also has a very Asian kick. Then we're going to add a 1/4 teaspoon each of onion powder and garlic powder. A small pinch of salt, about 1/8 of a teaspoon. And then, this seems weird, but when you eat crab rangoon in a restaurant, usually it's made with imitation crab meat, which is sweet. And the crabless crab cakes don't have that sweet factor to them. So we're gonna add 1/2 teaspoon of sugar. And this is going to give them that authentic Chinese food restaurant taste that you crave without eating them from a Chinese food restaurant. So we're just going to mix this together. And once you've mixed it well, just give it another taste. So good. So good. So then we're gonna assemble. So you wanna get yourself just a little bit of water to wet down the edges of our wontons. gonna lay them out. Lay them as triangles because you're gonna fold them in this way. I don't do the fancy crab rangoon shape. Never been able to, and I'm not gonna pretend like I can. Then we're just gonna put a little bit of filling in the center. Don't overfill these or they won't seal and they will not cook up properly. So maybe about 2 teaspoons to a tablespoon of filling per wonton. This is what you're going to want for filling. So you've got a good perimeter around the outside to be able to wrap them up. And then, to seal our wontons, all you're going to do is dip your finger in the water and go around all 4 edges of the wontons and then fold and press firmly around the edges and they'll just seal right together. So once they're all sealed, they should look like this. All right, I'm gonna seal the rest of these and then I'll show you how we get them in the fryer and cook them up. All right, so our oil is hot. We're gonna turn it down to medium heat. We're just gonna take our wontons that are filled with our filling and gently drop them in there. Do not plop them. You will get splashed with oil and it won't feel good. Now these are gonna cook up really quickly in the oil. They're only gonna take about 2 to 3 minutes each, so do not leave them unattended. Gonna flip them when they're golden. Ooh.
They're really popping.
All right, well, here you have it. A plate of perfectly fried, crispy, vegan crab rangoon